Hello everyone out there, welcome back to the Phantoms Fanatic YouTube channel. I am back with another review, and this review is of Evil Dead Rise, released this year in 2023, starring Alyssa Sutherland, Lily Savalan, Morgan Daves, Gabrielle Ickos, and Neil Fisher, and it was directed by Lee Corrin. The plot of Evil Dead Rise is that when two estranged sisters meet each other again, because they haven't talked to each other in a while, strange events happen to where one of the sisters' kids finds a mysterious book and records, but after playing the records and the book does weird things, the mother is then suddenly possessed by a supernatural entity and becoming a Deadite. This is the newest entry in the Evil Dead franchise, and to get my opinion off on the Evil Dead franchise, I love it. I think it's one of my favorite fucking horror franchises ever, because if you can see here, that's Ash from Evil Dead 2. So, I'm a big fan of Evil Dead. And they're some of my favorite movies. The original trilogy, the original Evil Dead, then Evil Dead 2, and then Army of Darkness. I love all of those movies for separate reasons. I love the first one because it's a true grittiness feeling of just a low-budget horror movie with some weird-as-fuck things going on in it. If you've seen that movie, you understand that. Evil Dead 2, I think, is an all-time fucking blast. It is just an entertaining force from beginning to the end, with the amount of insane fucking imagery to the gore and just the most hilarious shit ever. That movie is a goddamn riot. Army of Darkness, I start to lose myself in, but it has its own memorable feeling to it that I still fucking love that movie. And then we got the remake, which I have very similar opinions to this movie that I have with the remake, but I will say the remake does have some things that I do think are an interesting switch up from the original, and I think it has its own set and style to it, to where I like that film a good amount. But now we got this movie, which is kind of a remake, sequel, maybe it's a sequel to the remake, I'm assuming, because in this, obviously, they find a different version of the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, but when he's listening to the recordings made, it says, there's 3 different Necronomicons, so it might take place in the same universe. Who the fuck knows? My opinion of this film overall is that it is not a bad film. It is just not that memorable of an Evil Dead movie, and that's where I think the film falters. An Evil Dead movie should be memorable, and other than 1 or 2 things in this, I wouldn't really memorize it as much. This film just feels like above the book possession film. Compared to something like Pray for the Devil, I mean, those are 2 different things, but I'm saying a supernatural film where a character gets possessed. This film is on the higher end of standard on that, but comparatively to the other 4 Evil Dead movies, as I said, it is similar feeling to the remake, but overall, it's more just standard. The remake at least had a handful of memorable things to it that I will remember for that film. The climax of the remake I will always remember. The main character and how they kind of do a switch up between them, I like that, but the side characters in that I don't give a fuck about. But now we get this film, which is pretty much Demons 2 mixed with Evil Dead, which if you guys seen Demons 2, you know how that movie goes. Yeah, I like how they switch it up by having it take place in an apartment building. I like that switch up than just the cabin, even though in the trailer you see scenes of the cabin, which one of my main problems with this film is that you have that opening scene which kind of relates to the film, but it does the thing 1 day earlier, and I feel like you didn't need that except to set the mood, but it was fine. I don't have that big of a problem with it. It's kind of useless in the long run, and I feel like you could cut it and have a cool breeze 90 minutes, but then you get some fun effects, so take it as you will. It didn't bother me insanely, but I knew exactly when I saw that it wasn't going to lead to a goddamn thing, except a little shock at the ending, so take it as you will. One thing that I really gotta praise this film for doing is a good mixture of practical and CGI effects, especially on the Deadites. I feel like they do such a good job of making them kind of like float around ominously or like crawl around the ceilings and doing like insane physical movement shit. That is insanely well done, and I really enjoy the combination of practical and CG, because there's some effects in this where I can tell that it's CG, but some effects where I'm like, how did they do that? That was what I was questioning. And I think that they make a good mixture of that. I feel like a lot of films can learn from this to using CG and practical effects to both benefits. And I think the effects in this are really goddamn good. Especially from all the practical gore we're seeing. We're seeing like black ooze just skyrocket everywhere, and the vocal effects of how they do the Deadites are well done. They look a lot like the remake Deadites, which I like the look of them, but I prefer the original look of the Deadites from the original Evil Dead movies. But overall, I think that the effects and the gore are, for the most part, handled well. And I like the new design for the Necronomicon in this. I feel like it's a switch up that works well. Instead of having a face on it, the book itself is like a mouth, like that Harry Potter book from Prisoner of Azkaban, and I really like the switch up of that. And the scene when the character is playing the records and listening to the vocal performance there, I think that's done insanely well, just like in the original. And it has those sequel remake-esque things where, like, in this, a strange event happens where they discover this secret vault where the Book of the Dead is discovered. Or when they're stuck on the floor, instead of, like, in the original when he's trying to escape by road, the bridge is blocked. In this, they try to go downstairs, but because of an earthquake happening, the stairs are all broken. And there's a similar scene like the infamous tree scene from the original film in this, but instead it's in an elevator. And when I saw that, I was like, we're really going this way? But yeah, those little sequel remake ideas, and obviously they have lines like, I'll swallow your soul and shit like that. I don't have a problem with them doing that. Sequel and remakes, especially requels like this kind of tend to do that, and I didn't have the biggest problem with it. Except one where they try to take something from Evil Dead 2, which is such a funny thing in that, and in this I'm like, they did that? Why did they need to do that? And overall, I think the characters are all right. For the most part, I feel like you know who's gonna make it to the end, and you do care for them enough to where when maybe like one specific character dies, you're like, oh damn, I feel bad about that. But overall, I feel like that is this film's weakness, is that the characters, I don't think the actors are doing a bad job, especially in the beginning when the two sisters are talking to each other. I feel like there's a lot of facial expressions doing a lot of the work in that scene, and I feel like it works really well in setting up their relationship. And I feel like it does a good enough job, and the main actress is pretty good in this. The sister who shows up to help the kid, who shows up to ask her sister, who has all these kids, for advice, I feel like it is set up well, even though they do this thing where, like, she's pregnant, and that kind of goes into it, especially with this line from the trailer.
You'd be a good mom someday, honey bear.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you know how to lie to kids.
And, like, I get what they're doing with that, but I feel like it doesn't amount to really anything. And even though I think I like this actress in this, like, Ash William-esque role, I feel like the lines are a bit strange. Like, shit will happen to, like, her family members, and she's, like, cracking one-liners-esque. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I can't tell if this film is trying to go for the over-the-top goofiness of the other Evil Dead films, but at the same time, I feel like we're kind of supposed to take it seriously, especially from the way it's shot, which it's shot very well. The cinematography is very well done. There's a lot of shots where, like, reflections are used in specific areas. The only problem is I feel like the cinematography is a bit too dark because they build up to this creature, and you see, like, a bunch of hands in the trailer, and that kind of builds up to the creature, and you see an image of it in the Book of the Dead, and I'm like, what is it gonna look like? From that look of it, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see this. And it's kind of just obscured by shadows, which you need to do with practical effects, but at the same time, give us like a cool reveal of it, and when I finally see it, I'm like, I can't really remember what it looked like. And of course in this, there's somebody who mentions they have a shotgun. I wonder what type of shotgun that's gonna be. And there's a chainsaw in this from the trailer, and I get it. It's an Evil Dead movie. You gotta do this. Your heroine holding a chainsaw at the end, covered in blood, which, how they get covered in blood, I feel like is a really neat reference to The Shining, which is done a good amount, but I feel like they switch it up in this really well. You see that in the trailer, and I feel like they switch up that reference enough to where I really liked the reference. But back to the characters, overall, I feel like everybody's likable except the daughter, who they set up as going to a protest, and I was like, okay, I don't. And then, like, the brother says something about, do you eat raw chickens in China? And she's like, dude, that's offensive. And I'm like, oh my god, I don't give a fuck. As I said, yeah, the main actress is not bad in this, but they really don't do anything except maybe, like, her caring for her sister's kids after she dies, and that's maybe what the pregnancy thing has to do with it, especially because, like, one of the Deadites say, I don't like having things inside me, and you don't either. And I just feel like it doesn't really lead to anything. And that's where I feel like this film falls short overall, as I feel like as a horror movie in itself, it's pretty good. It uses practical effects. The demons and the Deadites are genuinely creepy. Like, the mother in this, she is so good. Like, as the Deadite, she is having a fucking blast, and she's probably the most memorable thing in this. And especially that scene in the trailer where the little girl is looking out the fucking keyhole, that is still fucking creepy to me, and how they do that. And I feel like, yeah, they do a good job with the Deadites in this, don't get me wrong. And it has this similar twisted humor to the Evil Dead films, but just in comparison to the other ones, there's nothing really stand out in this, because the climax has a wood chipper in it, and if this was Evil Dead directed by Sam Raimi, I would want to see that. But it's like, I guess you get the blood and the gory effects, but it's like, I want to see just like a fire hose of blood coming out of that thing. Like, I need to just see a rocket of blood hitting the wall, and they don't really do that. And as I said, the cinematography is good. I really like how it's shot, but it is a bit too dark and obscure to where they try to build up to this creature, and I really didn't feel like it was satisfying. And overall, I feel like there's nothing going to be insanely memorable in this. The remake is very similar to this, where I feel like the characters are all right, but not explained to the best. But at least the remake, I will remember that climax. This, I kind of remember it. And I just feel like overall, they missed the mark with this film, with Evil Dead. And I feel like this film is just a good horror movie in its own right, but not the best Evil Dead movie. It's probably on par with the remake. I feel like that remake suffers from other things, but this one, still, I feel like they're kind of even to me. I enjoyed watching it. It is a fun watch, and overall, it goes by fast. It's only 90 minutes-ish, and you don't feel the length at all. It's paced very well. It's directed really well. So, yeah. Do I recommend this film? If you're a fan of the Evil Dead franchise and you want to see them all, I would say see this in theaters, because maybe it would be a fun theater experience. I had fun seeing it. If you see it at night with like a group of friends, it's one of those horror movies that you see at night with a group of friends. It's definitely on the better end, other than something like Pray for the Devil to see. So I definitely recommend it. It is a fun watch. It's gory as hell. And overall, it's just a blast to watch. But overall, I feel like 10 years from now, I don't think I'm going to go back to this one like I keep going back to the original trilogy. I don't think I'm going to be super excited to watch this again. That's how I see this film. For the rating, I am going to give it 3 double-barrel shotguns that you call boomsticks. I made a poll for the channel to see what you guys thought for the ratings, and you guys thought I was going to give it a 5 out of 5. Hate to tell you, this movie's not that good to get a 5 out of 5. And I want to make a bit of a correction. Renfield, I gave a 3 out of 5. I'm going to make a correction and give that a 2.5 out of 5. I feel like it needed to go down a half a point because of reasons, just from further looking back on the film. But anyways, What did you guys think of Evil Dead Rise? Leave your opinions in the comment sections down below. Leave your thoughts on the review in the comment sections. Check out the channel. I put a lot of effort into this. I'm trying to give you guys more good quality content, even though I forget to turn on my mic when I stream. Like and subscribe down below. Check out the other reviews for Renfield and the other reviews I have on the channel. Check out the Meandering Conversations podcast. And the next review will be of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But until then, I'll swallow your soul!